G'day, Starlo here, and I'm about to embark on the next stage of my ongoing BFS journey. And those of you who've been following it so far will know that BFS stands for Bait Finesse System, a system whereby you can cast really light weights using baitcaster gear. And as a lot of people have correctly pointed out, there's nothing particularly new about that. A handful of pioneers were doing the same thing 30 or 40 years ago, using little Abu reels all tricked up on light fiberglass rods, but they were a very small group and they kept what they were doing pretty close to their chests. Well, all that's changed in the last couple of years. The term BFS came out of Japan early in the 2000s, and it's really taken the world by storm. Well, a small part of the fishing world, let's face it, it's still a minority of anglers who really want to get into BFS fishing. I'm enjoying the journey so far. I had a pretty bumpy start, but now I've got a good rod for it and I'm able to cast these light weights. And I'm doing something a little bit different today that probably wouldn't be regarded as mainstream BFS fishing. I've come down onto the rocks near the mouth of my local estuary and I'm actually going to throw a Cranka Crab and maybe a muss to see if I can find a bream. Now, it's absolutely the wrong time of the day. It's the middle of a bright sunny day. I came down for a walk in the morning. It looked great. It was overcast, but by the time I got my work done and came back down, the sun was brightly beaming down. Not good conditions at all. It's nearly the top of the tide. I think it might have actually just started to trickle out here. It turned out at sea quite a while ago, but because of the lag, it hasn't really started to drop here yet, but it will. And I'm just going to flick this cranker around and see if I can find a bream. I don't have particularly high hopes, but who knows. The very first thing I'm going to do is spice up my Cranka Crab with some S-Factor scent. I reckon this stuff's extra critical when using super slow presentations. And the soft material of the Cranka's claws holds the scent really well. You don't need a lot, but I definitely believe it makes a difference. I'll wade out into position to start casting. Oh, and I'll slip my sunnies on too. These rocks are sharp and covered in oysters, so the right footwear is important. I'm wearing tough neoprene boots with metal studs. There are a few brands of these on the market and they're perfect for this job. I'll kick off with a nice gentle lob. These lighter Cranka Crabs weigh in at about 3.9 grams, which is light by conventional baitcaster standards, but nothing exceptional in the BFS age. There are exponents casting a gram and less with this gear, although I'm nowhere near that league yet. No hits here, so I'll move around a bit further. The tide's still a bit high for this spot, but I reckon I can get out there if I'm careful. How's that water clarity? To be honest, it's probably not doing me any favours. Bream are extra tricksy in clear water, especially under a midday sun. I suspect that all I'm going to get here is some BFS casting practice, but that's okay, I need it. Basically, I drop the crab onto the sand patches between the rocks, let it sink to the bottom, then lift and shake it a few times before letting it settle again. After probing each likely nook, I reel it in fairly quickly to avoid snagging up. Some days this searching strategy works really well, but today, as I predicted, I'm drawing a blank. What's that old line about it being a pleasure just to be here? Maybe. But I'd really prefer to catch something, or at least get a hit. But it's just not happening. I reckon I can smell donuts, if you know what I mean. You'll probably notice that I'm fanning my casts around a bit. I'm trying to cover a new piece of water with each presentation. In my experience, if a bream sees that crab, it'll usually react to it. So there's not a lot of point in continually casting into exactly the same spot. But despite all my best tricks, I'm just not getting any serious hits. I've had a couple of little pecks, but I suspect they came from toadfish because I can see some swimming around here. After a while, it begs the question, how long do you hang in there and keep banging your head against a brick wall? Like most fishermen, I'm always up for one more cast. And one more cast usually turns into 5 more casts, and then 10 more casts, and the hours slip by. But seriously, I don't think it's going to happen for me today. Come on, one more cast. That sound you just heard is me switching off my chest-mounted camera. Yep, it's the sound of defeat, or perhaps just of acceptance. Now I need to get back off this rock without taking an unplanned swim, which wouldn't be great, especially for my camera and microphones. Ah, the joys of producing YouTube content. It's just as well I love it. I think I'll just chalk today's little foray up to experience. But it was another step on my personal BFS journey, and I must admit, I'm really enjoying the whole process. I've even managed to catch a few fish on it. I've always been a big fan of baitcasters, but in the past I accepted that their minimum practical casting weights were somewhere between about 5 and 7 grams, and even that was a bit of a push. Now I'm happily chucking 2 to 5 gram lures off this new age gear, and it's a joy. If you want to read about the exact specs of the outfit that I was using today on the rocks, I'll include it in the description and the comments down below. One of those would have been good today. And if you'd like to follow my BFS journey, all the way from its rather bumpy start, I've created a dedicated BFS playlist. Anyway, until next we meet, this is Starlo wishing you tight lines and happy BFSing. Oh, and here are direct links to 2 of those earlier BFS episodes. Cheers for now.